Self-knowledge is the shortest, the straightest, and the only path to liberation. Sri Ramana Maharshi. Souls who are seeking peace in the midst of the chaos of the world. Stop for a moment. Listen to the subtle echo from the depths of your heart. Have you ever asked yourself, who am I? Who am I really, beyond all these roles, all these memories, all these forms? It is in this question, which Ramana Maharshi calls Atma-Vikara, or self-inquiry, that a journey back to the source begins. A journey not outward, but upstream, back to the I Am. But that path, like all paths of truth, is not easy. For ahead are the invisible walls of the mind, of ignorance, of the ego, of the thousands of illusions that we call I. And these are what Ramana called the clouds that obscure the sun of self. The sun never sets, it is just the clouds that cover it. This article is an inner pilgrimage, taking us through each layer of obstruction and how to overcome it, based on the immortal teachings of Ramana Maharshi and the experience of meditation practice. The nature of awakening. Who am I? Awakening is not the acquisition of something new, but the realization of what has never been lost. Sri Ramana Maharshi. The primordial self, the unchanging Atman in the midst of the impermanent world. In Advaita Vedanta philosophy, Atman, the supreme soul within each person, is a ray of light reflecting Brahman, the absolute reality. Atman is not born, does not die, does not change no matter how the world changes. Ramana Maharshi said, Atman is the light that illuminates all experience. Whether the mind is still or agitated, that light never wavers. But humans, caught in the whirlwind of ignorance, Avidya, identify themselves with the temporary shadow of the body and thoughts. We say, I am in pain, I am sad, I am worried, but we never stop to ask, who is the one who feels it? Who is the real I? At that very moment, the ego, Ahankara, appears like a thin cloud covering the sun of pure awareness. From the first I, a whole world arises. Of people and things, of right and wrong, of gain and loss, of fear and desire. This dichotomy is the source of suffering. Enlightenment is not a gain, but a dissolution. Ramana Maharshi taught, when you trace the root of the I, it dissolves like mist in the morning sun. What remains is not the enlightened you, but the self that has always been enlightened. Awakening does not come from the accumulation of more knowledge, but from the falling away of illusion. Not to seek the light, but to realize the light that has never left us. The ego is the darkness that thinks it is real. When the light of awareness shines, that darkness disappears. When the mind stops searching, when the word I is no longer attached to the body and emotions, we begin to taste the taste of serenity, the absolute freedom of being. Self-inquiry, the only way back to the source. Ramana did not teach meditation with techniques, he just pointed straight to the root. Instead of asking how to become enlightened, ask who is not enlightened. That question does not need an answer. Because when we look deeply, the I who asks the question dissolves. Only pure consciousness remains that knows itself, nameless, formless, inseparable, that is Brahman. That is the moment when the seeker and the found become one. There is no one to seek, no place to go, there is only the presence of the self. The great obstacles on the journey to enlightenment. Just as the sun is always shining brightly but is obscured by clouds, the enlightenment that is inherent in us is covered by layers of ignorance and delusion. Ramana Maharshi points out that the four great walls that keep people in the cycle of rebirth and prevent awakening are: 1. Ignorance, Avidya, the darkness of oblivion. Ignorance is not a lack of knowledge, but a deep delusion about ourselves. We forget that we are light and identify ourselves with what is changing. So we seek happiness in things that are impermanent: wealth, status, love, or even spiritual success. Ramana Maharshi emphasizes, ignorance is when you seek the constant in what is changing. Only when we return to being a pure observer, seeing clearly that all phenomena are just waves of birth and death on the ocean of awareness, then the light of self-nature is gradually revealed. 2. Ego, Ahankara, the usurper of the throne of God. Ego is the first false idea: I am this body, I am the thinker, I am the doer. From there, thousands of other thoughts arise, like branches growing from a single root. Ramana taught, ego is the I thought, the first rising of mind. When it subsides, all else subsides. When the ego disappears, the entire illusion of the mind also disappears. The scary thing is that the ego can take on the guise of spirituality. It wants to become enlightened faster than others, to become special. It is the spiritual ego, the most subtle, because it hides under the guise of holiness. Only when we realize that there is no one to be enlightened does the path truly open. 3. The restless mind, Chanchala Manas, the waves of thoughts. The mind is like a lake stirred by the wind. When the wind stops, the water becomes clear. There is no need to suppress thoughts, just stop identifying with them. Ramana said, do not fight the mind. Just ask, who is the one who has the mind? This question cuts the cord of identification, bringing the energy of awareness back to the center. Waves may still arise, but we stand outside them, like the sky that is never wet by rain. The restless mind does not need to be eradicated, it needs to be seen in the light of awareness. When we just observe, the mind gradually dissolves into silence, and that silence is meditation. For attachment and desire, Raga-Dvesha, the chains of two extremes. Attachment is not just material desire, it is also attachment to the idea of goodness, peace, or even enlightenment. Whatever we want to achieve, we are telling the universe that we are not enough. It is this belief that I am not enough that is the greatest obstacle. Bhagavad Gita teaches, the wise do not rejoice when they gain, nor grieve when they lose. For they have transcended the two extremes of desire and aversion. Enlightenment does not come from trying to be perfect, but from letting go of the need to become. When we accept everything as it is, no more, no less, the mind dissolves into a state of purity. All these obstacles, ignorance, ego, mind, attachment, exist only in the dim light of unawareness. When we light the lamp of mindfulness and self-knowledge, they naturally disappear like the darkness of night disappears when dawn comes. Ramana Maharshi concluded, there is no real enemy to be defeated. When the eye is seen through, there is no one left to fight. Mind, friend and enemy. Ramana Maharshi said, the mind is not an independent entity, it is only the stream of thoughts that arises in consciousness. This saying contains the whole secret of liberation. The mind, manas, has no separate nature, it exists only when thoughts arise, and vanishes when thoughts are seen through. Ramana taught, if you try to keep the mind still by effort, it is the mind that deceives you. Only when you see clearly who wants to control the mind, does the mind really vanish. Mind, a double-edged sword. The Bhagavad Gita says, "The mind is the greatest friend of the one who conquers it, and the worst enemy of the one who is dominated by it." BG 6:5-6. When the mind is enlightened by consciousness, it becomes your friend, leading you to knowledge, creativity, compassion, and wisdom. But when the mind usurps the throne of consciousness, it becomes the shackles of illusion, trapping the soul in the cycle of samsara, birth, death, and suffering. Just as a knife can be used to cut fruit or to inflict injury, the mind can be a tool or a prison. The difference is not in the mind, but in the person who wields it. There is no need to fight, just see. Ramana Maharshi teaches a single method, simple yet profound. Don't try to stop thinking. Find out who is thinking. Just turn the light of consciousness back to its source, and the stream of thinking immediately loses its energy. When you ask who is thinking, no rational answer is found, only pure silence. In that moment, you are no longer the observer, but the observation itself. This is living meditation, jnana vikara, the meditation of intuitive knowledge, where the meditator and the meditator dissolve into one. The illusion of the ego. The root of the mind is the feeling of aham-vritti, the thought wave I am. Ramana said, "When the thought I arises, the world arises. When the thought I subsides, the world disappears." The ego has no entity of its own, it is just the first thought, from which all other thoughts are born. I want, I need, I fear, I fail. When you realize that I is also just a thought, the river of ego dries up, revealing the calm ocean of being. No need to fight, no need to make an effort, just see clearly. Enlightenment does not happen through action, but through absolute, thoughtless understanding. Mind, from ruler to servant. In the silence of awareness, the mind does not disappear completely, it returns to its proper role, servant of consciousness. It functions without taking over. You use it when you need it, then let it go when you are done. This is the liberated mind, like a mirror that reflects without clinging to the image. Thoughts are no longer chains, but the flow of the universe that operates through you. You are no longer driven by thoughts, but the silent energy of being that thinks through you. The energy of presence. You don't have to attain presence. You just have to stop being away from it. Presence, the pure energy of the universe. When you are completely present in this moment, not thinking about the past, not imagining the future, the energy of life itself arises. It is prana, it is Shakti, it is the light of Brahman that permeates every cell, every breath, every look. When you wash the dishes, just wash the dishes. When you walk, just walk. When you are in pain, just feel the pain without naming it. Then the separation between I and doing dissolves. The doer and the doing become one. There is only the pure energy of presence, where the universe plays through you like a song without a player. The power of silence. Ramana said, "Silence is the true teaching. The rest is merely explanation." Silence here is not the absence of sound, but a state of mind where the divine energy, Satchitananda, being, consciousness, bliss, flows unhindered. In silence, the cosmic energy flows through you. You need not ask, you need not expect. When you are silent, God breathes through you. When energy and being merge. When the mind dissolves, the cosmic energy, Shakti, and pure consciousness, Shiva, merge. This is the point where meditation and enlightenment converge, where the practitioner is no longer the meditator, but meditation itself is working through them. Ramana once said, "There is no one who has attained enlightenment. There is only enlightenment, and it is you." When presence reaches its ultimate depth, you are no longer practicing meditation, but meditation is happening by itself. Presence becomes a natural flow, like a flower that blooms effortlessly. Presence in everyday life. Presence is not just for the meditation hall. It is the art of living in the world without being swallowed up by the world. Ramana taught, "Live in the world as a dreamer who knows he is dreaming." That means you still work, talk, love, but your consciousness never leaves the silent center. Every action comes from silence and returns to silence. That is the secret of being free in life, living without being dragged by the mind, acting without creating karma. When presence becomes compassion. When the energy of presence spreads, the heart opens. You do not have to try to love. Love flows like a flower from your being. Love is no longer an emotion, but a natural state of enlightened being. Bhagavad Gita calls it yoga of love, bhakti yoga, when the practitioner realizes that God is all beings. You see yourself in others, and others in yourself. Silent energy, the heartbeat of the universe. In the depths of silence, you begin to feel the synchronization of your heart with the heart of the universe. Everything breathes the same breath, trees, rivers, people, planets. It is the unity of consciousness that Ramana Maharshi called Sahaja Samadhi, the natural, effortless, non-separate state of enlightenment.